In this episode of the Beamable Game Dev Podcast, we sit down with the team from Quatdratron Studios and talk about their game Fishheads. And we get to hear about their experience of running a booth at Too Many Games. Let's jump into the interview. We got Eric, Laura, Mark, Zenas, and Erin is also here from Beamable. So let's, Zenas, I'm going to start with you. Tell us a little bit about the studio. Give us some background.
Yeah, so Quatdratron Games is a little indie studio that me and my buddy Christian kind of put together so we could, just release our. Well, we were started out doing like little game jam games over the weekends, but then we started doing a little bit more serious work. And back, how long ago was it? I think it was like 2016. We released a game called Super Rock Blasters. Actually, I have a little sign here from Super Rock Blasters, which was available on Steam and Switch. And we did that for a while. And then we had always been taking in some interns and students and stuff over the years. And last summer, I guess, the summer of 2020, I wasn't going to take a bunch of interns because I was busy doing some other stuff. And a bunch of people contacted me and said, hey, because of the pandemic, we're having a hard time finding internships. Could we get an internship with me? So I was like, okay, I'll take on some students this year. And well, the team was built, and there's probably aside from Eric, Laura, Mark wasn't actually an intern, and he can talk about that later. But there were a couple other students, Kevin, Nico, and who was the other guy's name? I can't remember his name.
Oh, Connor.
Connor kind of like he kind of disappeared, and then Faith. Yeah. So we all got together, and I was like, "Hey guys, I just made a game earlier in the year. It was more of like something to do at the start of the pandemic, called Threshold Runner, and it was supposed to be for a client, but that didn't end up working. And I said, why don't you take this game I made, turn it into something that is of your own, and I'll help guide you through the process and do some of the development work with you. And they were pretty cool about that. And that is kind of the birth of Fishheads. We just started with, designing the concept and some concept art, talking about how we were going to change an infinite runner into something a little bit more ours. And I just let the ball roll there. And actually, I'd like to let everyone else kind of talk about their experiences about that. But that is where Fishheads came from, and a little bit about Quatdratron Games.
I love it. So you mentioned Mark was not an intern. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, go ahead, Mark. Is Mark still there?
Mark might be frozen.
Yeah.
Mark.
Or
Mark
he's standing really still.
I see his bars are all red. So maybe Mark will come back eventually. At least he froze with a smile on his face, and
right.
not with like the half blink that sometimes happens. So,
God.
Laura, let's hear from you. Like, how has that experience been working on Fishheads?
Yeah, I was going to say, I remember one of our first meetings, was talking about how can we take Threshold Runner and take it artistically, aesthetically, completely 180 away from what it currently looks like. And it was like a cute fantasy, Disney, Mary Blair, whimsical thing. And I feel like I remember a lot of the team members really liked BioShock and a little darker games. And I don't know when Underwater started to happen, but it was so fun to be so artistically involved, even from the start. Like, that's what we were talking about. I came in as an intern. I think Mark is gone. Maybe he'll be back. Miss you, Mark. I think I emailed you in January of 2020 before, things hit the fan, and we were lucky enough to arrange an internship before, everything went downhill, because Quatdratron Studios' physical location where they used to rent was really close to where I lived, and I thought that would be cool. And even though we did everything remote, it was still a cool experience anyway. But yeah, I came in, I just wanted to get an internship that let me make art. In school, we did a lot of like everything, and I feel like we never got to focus on art because I was also trying to learn coding and like texture mapping and all this other stuff that's like not my wheelhouse.
And so are you kind of responsible for the look of fish heads? Like I'm looking at some of the artwork right now, and I like kind of the I mean, in a sense, this fish head that's in this bottle is kind of terrifying. It looks like a football fish, I'm guessing, right? Like
he's like one of those lanternfish or anglerfish, I guess they're technically called.
Yeah, there you go. I think Animal Crossing calls him a football fish, so that's forgive me.
But yeah, when I was at Too Many Games, I think that was like something that like drew me to your table was this artwork, because I was like, oh, okay, like you're looking through, and it's like, okay, we got like, either like super cutesy games or like super hardcore, like rah, and then like you look over and I'm like, wow, like that's kind of like different, like that's kind of cool. And then I sat down and started playing, and I was like, wow, this is such a cool game. And, obviously we've evolved to this great friendship now, but,
Yes.
Yeah. And speaking of the artwork, though, I guess this is a perfect time to open this bad boy.
Yeah,
I haven't yet.
All the goodies.
Oh my gosh, you wrote me a note.
Yeah, I even drew art.
You drew that? Like right there.
Yeah.
Look.
Hold on to it because it'll be worth millions one day now.
All right. I'm gonna frame it now. Thank you for that. Okay, here we go.
Yeah.
So
if you're only listening to the audio version here, Erin is opening a poster.
Yeah, and also to audio people, as I open this poster. Last time I was on this podcast, as some of us may or may not have seen, Josh was making fun of me because I didn't have this poster when I said that I got the high score, because I totally did. 100% I didn't. So then you guys reached out and were like, whoa, oh my God, there's you guys give me multiple posters?
Yeah, okay. We hooked you up. Swag bag.
Here's number one. If
that's my favorite.
Can you see that, Josh? Is it?
Yeah.
Ooh. Wow, I'm full screen. Go this way. Look at that. That's so cool. Okay.
Thank you.
Number two. Oh, snap. Look at this one. This is so cool.
Thank you.
This is so
I drew that like during a convention, like a digital convention.
And then here's number three.
Nice.
This is so cool.
Like our Apple Center logo or something.
Thank you so much. This is amazing.
Yeah, no problem. There should be stickers in there too, unless I was a dummy and forgot. But...
Whoa!
Yeah, there you go. It might be a little crumpled, but
I don't know. I might have like dropped a few of them. Yeah, I have. Where is it? I have other fish head stuff. Oh no, I have it right here that I got at Too Many Games. I got this sticker. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
this one. The postcard. And oh, this is different. But yeah, I got these two at the convention. So cool stuff.
Okay, I see Mark is back. Mark, are you with us? Kind of freezing periodically. I will let you know your face froze at a good, like it was a good look. It wasn't mid blink or anything. So I don't know if you heard the beginning, but like we were talking about the interns and how you weren't an intern, and maybe you can kind of give us a little bit of background on that, and then just your work with fish heads.
Sure. Can you hear me all right?
We can.
Okay, good. Yeah, sorry about that. My computer crashed before. But with Quatdratron and with fish heads, it was basically I got involved because I took a class with Zenis. And my background, like I went to the same school as he was teaching it, basically. And I was a music student. And my senior year, I just got interested in kind of finally, taking the lead on trying to do some game audio stuff. And so I took a game design course that he was teaching. and I had no idea how to work with games. So I basically told him that. I told him like I can do audio stuff, and that's really my limit there. And he said, you can pass this class basically if you do the music and the audio for all the projects in it. And that sounded like a great little stress test. So I did that. And then it was basically just through that and through working with him, having to problem solve with everything I didn't know with him in the class, that we just kind of got talking. And then I reached out afterwards, after school, after graduating. And he basically said, I was actually thinking about reaching out because I have this project that I kind of need an audio guy for. And so that was pretty much it. He just brought me on. I'm technically a contractor. But yeah, I've been working with the team since a little bit after they started. But it's been really cool.
Love it. That's incredible. Eric, we've had you quiet this whole time. I apologize.
No problem.
What's been your what role did you play in Fish Heads?
Yeah, so I was one of the programmers. There was 3 of us. So when we would just meet every week and kind of decide what needed to get done and divvy up the programming work. I created the enemies, the functionality of the enemies. Of course, Laura did the art. And I worked mostly on the spawner. So there's a spawner off to the side that the player can't see that spawns the platforms on. And I did most of the work on that. Can't say I did all of the work on that, but I did most of the work on that.
Very cool. So and correct me if I'm wrong, but like, was Quatdratron, did I say it right? I want to make sure I said it right.
Fine.
Yeah, studio. Was it remote before the pandemic, or did it become remote after?
Before the pandemic, we had we had actually originally started when we created the company. We were in Philadelphia. We had an office space a shared office space with a bunch of other people. It was called the Philly Game Forge. And unfortunately that shut down. But we we first came to my house. My business partner, Christian, was my roommate. And then we were like butting heads, working all day long in the same house and living in the same house and stuff. So I was like, we got to go get another space. So we ended up local in the town that I live in. There's a place called The Factory. And again, it's like a shared space, but it's more for like woodworking, metalworking, and other kinds of like factory stuff. But we were able to get a small little studio and work from within there. So we did that for I think 3 years. So it was fun, kind of getting to work with. We would have students come in, and we would have this space where there were some desks, and we would all work together. But excuse me. But when the pandemic hit, we basically weren't going in there anymore, and we decided, well, we'll just get rid of it because we had set up home offices and stuff. But it worked out great because we all got used to working remotely. It would be nice to meet up in different places. We kind of do that anyway. We kind of get together and go to the brewery or something like that. But that was how we were doing things for a while.
Can we talk about the transition to remote work just a little bit? Because I'm sure there's some devs out there that are, maybe they're feeling a little bit lonely, or maybe their workflows and stuff isn't quite working the way they would kind of hope it would. Like, how have you guys been able to succeed in the remote environment?
Well, I think in the beginning, Christian and I, we lived together in the same place, but we went to the office to work together. So 2 guys working together it's not like a room full of people. So transitioning to just working in your office wasn't that big a deal. We had also been using we used Slack a lot. Even when we were in the office, we would send things to each other all the time. And we had a variety of different online resources, and we were doing some contract work. So some of that contract work was already remotely. So we'd get a contract with a company that wasn't in the Philadelphia area. We would have to work with them. I think one of them was actually in North Carolina, and we just got used to being able to communicate with people over a longer period of time, so that when the pandemic hit, we already had a lot of those tools in place and a lot of workflow that kind of understood that not everyone's going to be in the same room all the time.
Gotcha. Very cool. I want to go back and talk some more about fish heads. Like you guys kind of talked about some of the inspiration came from games like BioShock and if I was understanding correctly, this started out as a different project that kind of became the bones for fish heads. That was not meant to be a pun. And so let's just talk about the gameplay even. Like, is this still I think the other game was like a infinite runner or whatever, right? Is this the same kind of thing? Are you just how does it control? How does it play?
So it is similar to the original game. The original game was a super basic infinite runner, and this is still a pretty basic infinite runner. The biggest difference, I would say, is there's 3 tiers of platforms that kind of go across, and so part of the goal of the game is to try to climb your way up as you're running. And then, taking damage or missing that jump will often have you fall down, where it's a little bit harder to stay alive. And so the goal is kind of the perpetual goal of a usual infinite runner, which is avoid obstacles, but also of moving up to get better rewards and a better score.
Got it. Okay. Now I noticed like the trailer I was watching and stuff, like, are you firing a weapon? Are you jumping on enemies? Like,
no, I'm gonna give Fish Boy a gun now.
Yeah, that would be cool. It seems like it would fit with him, but no, it's just jumping over enemies. So it's avoiding enemies. There's no damaging the enemies or anything like that.
I see. Gotcha. Okay. All right. And so did any of you guys, like, can we confirm that Erin actually set the high score? Like, can somebody, because I still have a hard time believing her because she didn't have the posters right away. So was anybody there for that?
I wasn't there, but is
Okay.
Erin.
But she heard about it because it was a really big thing that happened that I did.
Yes, I did hear
Josh.
about it.
Yeah.
So numbers are relative, but the number she got was a high number.
Yeah. High enough
It was
to get
the high score for that
posters.
playthrough.
Exactly.
Yeah. The high score for that.
Listen.
Actually, that whole tournament that we were throwing that day was really fun and kind of spontaneous. We really hadn't planned for that, and we were like, "Why don't we have a tournament?" And Laura whipped up a high scoreboard, and we just threw it up there. And a lot of people were very engaged with that. I thought it was.
They were way more than I expected. It was really cool to see that. People were so engaged after that. It was like night and day.
Yeah. I think I sat there for like 3 to 5 rounds of
yeah, that's what would happen. People
of getting the best scores.
Yeah.
Ever.
One right after the other.
Yeah, but everybody here but Josh has pretty much had hands-on experience with the game, and for me, someone who obviously wasn't a part of creating the project like you guys, but as a player playing it, it was so relieving and also like nostalgic for me because I, as a kid, loved playing Robot Unicorn Attack. Okay, so when I sat down to play Fish Heads, I was like, okay, this is like Robot Unicorn Attack, but like better because it doesn't like go like super, super, super fast, but also like, oh my god, there's all these enemies and I have to like jump over them, and there's these pearls and I gotta get them, and so it was like I loved the challenge of it, and I just loved the format and everything. So you guys did a fantastic job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We got a lot of that comparison. I think I heard that like a couple times every hour. It was really funny. I'd never played it, and so I looked into it since then, and I can totally see it. That's cool.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Too Many Games. Was this the first like convention that you guys have done?
Yeah.
For me, yeah.
Me too.
I mean, I've been to a bunch of conventions, everything from like Too Many Games locally to MagFest and PAX and stuff like that with other games. But I wanted these guys to get the experience of taking their game to the convention, and it just so happened that Too Many Games kind of like plopped right at the right time, and we all were able to kind of like take advantage of that, which I thought was really cool.
So Laura, it was your first convention then?
Yeah, it was my first convention, like actually showing anything at. I'd been to too many games, just like a spectator,
Sure.
enjoyer, con goer. But yeah, I had no idea what to expect, especially post COVID. I was like, are there going to be people there? Like, where are we located? What is this going to be like? But it was, yeah, I set my expectations low, and they superseded that. Set the bar low, then you'll be pleasantly surprised. I just had no idea what to expect. We had done a digital convention like a few months prior, and it was, it was all right, but it was nothing like the real thing.
Let's talk about the prep for the convention, right? Because you got to have, posters and artwork for the booth and maybe some codes and all that stuff. Like what was that process like? How long did it take, just getting everything ready to go?
Luckily some of the printing facilities I used were pretty quick on their turnaround, but honestly it just meant that I had to make sure I was ordering things ASAP to make sure that they came in time. I had previously graduated and I had done my senior thesis, and I was ordering stickers for that. And so that kind of gave me like a taste of what's to come for like setting up an, exhibition for your work. So I knew like, okay, we're going to order these way, way, way in advance. So I think I ordered like the base art things, old fish heads art posters. And then I tried to work on new things in between, like new art. I think the first poster you showed off was something I made like maybe in between that period to try to like dress up the booth a little bit. And yeah, print. I know now for next time to probably even give myself more time. Yeah, that one.
Yeah, this one.
That style is like way more close to the style that we're kind of taking on for our next game. So you can tell that is made like so recently in comparison to the other two, which are pretty much a match for the game style. I change my style like every 6 months. It's so bad.
It's super awesome though. Like I really enjoyed like I'm just gonna say it a million times. I really enjoyed playing the game, and I really enjoyed like sitting there, and like everything you guys had out on the table was like so immersive. Didn't you guys have these like little glow up like pearl things?
So I had bought these like LED balls for some other reason, just to have some fun out in the park. And I was looking for things to bring to kind of make our table a little bit more exciting. I've been to a lot of these conventions, and I have some experience over the years of, making the table look a little bit more enjoyable to people walking around. So, aside of just getting all the tech together to bring the tech and setting up the tech and making sure it all ran properly, I wanted to kind of get the table kind of decorated nicely. Little did I know, Laura had created all of these nice. Basically took all the enemies and the platforms from the game, cut them out, and pasted them all over the table, which was fantastic.
Yeah, but it was just on like printer paper. I thought of that idea like 3 days before. I had to cut everything out individually. It sucked, but they were so cute with those orbs.
Oh my god, it was so cool because like for me, like I showed up to the table, I'm like, all right, cool game. Whoa, cool like light things. I like lights if you can't tell. Yeah. But I was like a moth to a flame. I was like, ooh, orb, like ooh. So then I sat down and I was like, whoa, wait, this is in the game. Like this is so cool. So like good job on just the whole setup of it. It was just so it really stuck out to me.
It sounds like your next con probably going to have the leaderboard set up immediately, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we actually been talking about that. Laura wants to put together. We kind of whipped it up really fast on just like some paper.
Yeah.
Laura wants to get that officially printed out and set up.
Right. I need to make like new artwork for it. Yeah. Officially.
The thing that's interesting is that the leaderboard brings the social aspect to the game, right? Even though it's outside of it, But then while you're live at a convention like that, it brings that social proof. All of a sudden you have a line of people, and that line draws more people, right? It's a pretty good way to market yourself while you're at that con, because everybody's fighting for attention, right? I mean, it's the same thing we do online, trying to get attention. And you get a line of people, you get a little crowd, all of a sudden people want to know what's going on over there, what's happening. And so I think it's a great takeaway for anybody that's thinking about going to a con to present their game, to try to get it in front of more people, is like, yeah, include a leaderboard of some kind. I mean, what did you guys end up using, like a whiteboard or something, just to like
it was
piece
like
of paper?
a big giant notebook or something.
Like I
Sketchpad.
I brought the posters in like a big art Canva board thing, and I had like giant 18 by 24 stacks of like a Bristol board. So we just took a marker and hastily put something together.
Yeah, but that's fantastic. I mean, that
Yeah,
grabbed
it
Erin's
worked.
attention, right? And it got it got her thinking she was at the top of the leaderboard. So
Because I was.
Yeah.
You know, since I've been to a bunch of these over the last decade, I guess, you start to see other ideas from other people, and you start kind of bringing them into your own presentation. And you know, everything from like just having beanbag chairs out, or like a big, you know, portable sofa, so to speak. Everything to kind of make your table kind of stand out among the crowd. A lot of people come, they'll kind of just set up their, you know, basic table with a, you know, maybe a tablecloth over it. But you know, if you bring in some, you know, lights and some make it like a carpet that make it feel like you're at home, and a couch, and give it a little bit of pizzazz and some things for people to win, even though it's like something as simple as a poster, right? It draws in that crowd, and they get excited by those things.
Yeah.
yeah,
And
for sure.
Like for me, so Too Many Games was my first convention ever, and I went alone, so I had like no idea what to expect. And you know, walking through and going into that little like section that you guys were in, you know, I'm walking through, I'm like, all right, like what do I do? And it's like, okay, look, this is like, you know, was it Seahorse Saga? I was like kind of across from you guys, and they were like two students, and they were telling me about their game, and that was neat, and that was interesting because they were kind of like up and very welcoming. And then I don't know what game was like at like that one part like here, but it wasn't drawing me in, and I don't think it was because like I didn't get like a welcoming feel. But as soon as I turned to Fish Heads, Zenas, I think you came up to me and were like, hey, would you want to sit down and play our game? And I was like, well, why not? Here we go. And I sat down, and I was like, wow, this is like really cool. And you guys were like super nice to me, and I was like, this is like really great. So I think it's not just the effort you guys put into the aesthetics, but it's also the effort you guys put into just like being nice and being welcoming to people is super important, because like those cons are like so overwhelming, and you're like, oh my God, there's all these people just kind of like moving around me. And for you guys to look at me and be like, hey, we see you, you're a person, do you want to like sit down for a minute and check out this game? And I'm like, yeah, I do. So, you know.
Yeah. You have to be personable. You're selling entertainment. You got to make people feel comfortable and excited. So yeah, being, you know, all of us are all kind of introverted and just kind of want to hang out. But we, you know, when you're at the convention, you basically have to step out of that little shell and be like, you know, hey, come look at this crazy carnival thing going on. We got all kinds of manner of craziness going on. So you do learn how to get involved, and I think I really wanted the guys here to kind of get a taste of that, do it on their own, but I had to kind of step up a little bit and just be like, here's how you do something. And they ran with it really well. So give them props too. Like for their first time, they definitely stepped up to the plate and did a great job.
It was exciting. People were so friendly too. Like I feel like I quickly noticed a pattern of like, these are just cool people. They just want to check out the game, and everyone was just so nice and friendly. I never got like any, you know, there was never anybody that came up and said, this looks terrible. Bye. Like everyone was so nice. They would be like, oh, this looks rad. I love the colors, or this looks fun. I think I just stood like stood there with postcards, and if somebody gave me eye contact, I'd be like, free postcard? Come here.
Yeah,
Someone.
I think you gave me. Yeah, I think
That was it. Trap
Yeah.
card.
you mean it's a super exclusive postcard that only cool people get.
The top of the
Yeah.
leaderboard.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, Josh.
So I want to transition again, talking just about the creation of the game. Mark, you started talk. We know you did some of the sound. Can you talk a little bit about the process of coming up with some of the audio, and if there's any cool stories to share with, like, I don't know if you were out recording smacking a wrench on a cable or something crazy, like anything like that.
Yeah, the like getting the sense of how we were going to design the audio as a whole was pretty cool, because Laura's art style was so sort of like involved that it was like initially we had so many ideas, and it was just sort of like a little bit of a product of kind of the COVID scenario that we ended up with the music we did. Because I think initially we were talking about like a jazz score of like something we would go in and record live, and it was like a super exciting idea, but practically it was like the studio I used was closed. Getting all those people in one room was probably going to be an issue. So we just started sort of brainstorming other ideas. And then what ended up happening was we sort of ended up on this idea of trying to merge Danny Elfman with Tchaikovsky. And that was the big thing that I was working on selling everyone on, was like this playful idea of having this big orchestral sound that sort of goes and plays into that kind of Y2K cartoon art style. So that's how the music ended up where it did, and then the sound design was also very largely based off of the art style, where it was a lot of that cartoon, like I said, Y2K. So what we did was a lot of the sound design is super musically influenced. There's instruments, sort of Mickey Mousing, like they call it, what happens on screen at times, and it's totally unrelated to the music, but utilizing some of those same sounds. And so that was how we kind of crafted the audio coming into that game.
I see. And Eric, talking about the programming a little bit, like, were there any hurdles for you, or any like big takeaways, learning experiences as you were programming this game?
I think the big takeaway is that it can be tough to work with multiple programmers, which I kind of knew beforehand. It's something I heard a lot, but it was nice actually getting the experience to butt heads with other programmers, because everybody just writes code differently. And in the end, it's a beneficial experience. For instance, like I was saying, I did most of the work on the spawner, but there was one time when kind of all the programmers had to come together, and we were doing kind of a big update to the spawner. And it took longer than it potentially could have if I did it by myself, because everyone's going back and forth and giving their opinions. But in the end, it kind of gets you a stronger piece of code, a stronger system. So that was kind of the biggest takeaway, is learning how to actually work in a group of programmers. And honestly, also just learning to work with everyone else, because I had also never worked with an artist, and seeing how our design choices are influenced by the art, and how the artist's choices are sometimes influenced by the design side, and all that. Mark kind of touched on that a little bit too. Yeah.
Laura, how about for you? Any big takeaways from this project, like learning experiences?
Yeah, definitely. The whole thing was such a learning experience. I had never like fully committed to making art for like an entire game. Most of the things I had done in school were short, learn a little bit of everything, do the art for, your final, which is like a 2-week thing. But I learned about like creating a style, making sure that style works across, whatever platforms you're using. Early art for fish heads was like really detailed, because that's just what my style currently was at the time. And we realized like, okay, this is a mobile game. We need to make sure like people can see it on a screen that's this big. So let's bump it down. So curating a style, keeping on that style, and making sure that future assets I'm making look like they should exist in this universe. Yeah, that was a huge thing, especially like making sure my line weights were right. We'd throw something in, and if I had drawn it at a much bigger scale, it was yeah, I would have to like redraw it with a thinner brush or something like that. A lot of technical stuff that I had not realized was so involved with it. That I learned a huge part of the technical side of making art for games.
Zenas, how about you? Like, any big takeaways from this project? Anything that like
well, I
learning
guess,
experiences?
Yeah, I mean, I was working on small, like a 2-man team, obviously working with other stakeholders, but mostly it was just the two of us. And oftentimes we were in the same room and we would just like ask each other questions. And this team was much larger, required a lot more coordination. I was taking more of a backseat in development, although I did some of the development after their interns were done. I did a lot of the porting for different consoles and stuff. But for the most part, I had to take a back seat and let everything kind of roll, and I had to kind of guide the team. So I was kind of used to being my own boss, but in this case, I had to coordinate the efforts of all these different and varied roles, which was a really cool experience. In the past, I had done them similarly, like I had worked with an artist or I worked with other programmers, but this is the first time I've worked with all of them, guiding them all to come up with a cohesive product. So that was something really exciting and enjoyable from my perspective.
So you got to play the director-producer role, kind of wearing a couple hats there.
Yeah.
Well, guys, I just want to thank you so much for taking the time to sit down with us today and give us just kind of the story behind Fish Heads. And
thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it's really neat to hear just the process, going to the con even, and just the promotion of the game. And so again, just thank you so much. Tell everybody where they can find it, maybe where they can find the studio.
And also you guys, like if you guys have like your own personal Twitters as well, because you guys each have your own experiences of making this process. So game devs that are going to see this podcast are going to be like, hey, maybe, they can reach out to you, or maybe if they can, or what you guys, provide on your own platforms as well.
Sure. Quatdratron Games is pretty simple. If you just do a search for Quatdratron, you'll find all of our social media and our website and stuff. Quatdratron.com, quickest place to go to. For Fish Heads itself, it's playfishheads.com. Everything you need to know about Fish Heads is there, including social media and stuff like that. I also would like to, before everyone else shares their stuff, quick plug, we are, as a team, are also working on a new game called Strange Stars. So quick plug for that.
Yeah,
it's coming probably in the next year or two. We'll have some cool stuff to show.
It's going to be cool.
Awesome.
It's going to be really rad.
That's exciting. We'll have to have you guys back when that's getting ready to launch.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Sounds good.
Cool.
Yeah. I guess
All right, Mark,
for my social oh, sorry. I didn't know.
You're good. No, jump in. Yeah, it's perfect.
Let me just make my own shameless plug real quick. You can find me. My username is wallabites99. So think like wallaby, but bites at the end of it. 99 on most platforms, Instagram, Twitter, and I also have a website that's just wallabites99.com. Plug over.
Very
Mark.
cool.
Promote yourself.
So I'm on Instagram. It's Mark Samani Composer. My website's marksamaniComposer.com. On Twitter, I think it's just Mark Samani, but I don't use that one that much. You could try, but I'm not very active. But yeah, the other ones are all good. So I'm on there.
Cool. All right, Eric.
I don't really have much of a social media, but these guys do, so I feel like I should soon too. But no, I don't really have anything to plug.
He's working on playstrange.stars.com.
Yeah, there you go. I'm also working on that game.
There you go. Very cool. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Beamable Game Dev Podcast. If you'd like to connect with other game devs, head on over to our Discord, beamable.com/Discord. And if you'd like to try Beamable for free, head on over to beamable.com.